The Jake Asman Show will begin shortly. Thanks to all these great Patreon members who help support the show. Get your super chats ready. Jake will be here in just a moment. If you love the New York Jets, this is the place to be. And now, the Jake Asman Show.
Joe Douglas is out, and the leaks about his time with the Jets are starting to all come out. We'll talk with Jets reporter Rich Cimini about the state of the Jets. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Jake Asman Show. Let's hit it and get it started. Man.
Shout out to Jet fans that are still showing up. I don't know what sort of dysfunctional family they grew up in, but I feel like if you parents were two people that should have broke up but never did, you're tailor-made to be a Jets fan because it's a toxic relationship. The level of swag that Jet fans wear, you would think that they had like 4 or 5 Super Bowls.
We bleed Jets green each and every day. This is not the same old Jets. We have Aaron freaking Rodgers. We have Garrett Wilson. Let's go. We have Breece Hall. Please subscribe and hit the like button below. Super chat, baby. Cut the line. We have Sauce Gardner. We have Quinnen Williams. The Jet bandwagon is loaded. Now it's time to talk all things New York Jets. It's the Jake Asman Show.
Here we go, Jet fans. Another day, another story coming out about the dysfunction that is the New York Jets. A day after they fired Joe Douglas, there is certainly a lot to talk about. And joining us right now to break everything down is longtime Jets reporter for ESPN and ESPN.com, Rich Cimini joins us. Rich, I know it's the bye week for you and the Jets, but there's never a bye week when talking about this team, huh?
No time off. As Belichick would say, no days off. You just keep grinding through, waiting for the next firing.
Unbelievable. So what was your initial reaction yesterday to this news? I don't think most of us were shocked that Douglas is out. Just the timing of it, were you surprised it happened yesterday?
Yeah, I actually had started hearing rumors a couple of weeks ago. My story actually was pre-written because I had heard the rumors a couple of weeks ago, so I wanted to have something ready just in case. Was I expecting it yesterday? No, I was probably a little surprised in that sense, but we all knew that Joe was dead man walking. I mean, really, the moment that Saleh got fired, you knew that this was going to be a total reboot. I just thought they'd probably wait till the end of the year to get rid of Joe Douglas, but I can see why they did it now. You know, it gives them a little bit of a head start on the GM search. They can start that in earnest. They don't have to have a clandestine search. They can do it out in the open. So now that they don't have Joe around. And so a little bit surprised, but yet we knew. Joe Douglas knew he was not shocked, from talking to people who knew him or know him. He thought he was going to get fired the same day Saleh did. So I think he was expecting that knock on the door to come at any point, and it came yesterday.
So what happens now? What is the process of ultimately replacing Joe Douglas and eventually Robert Saleh? Or is it, hey, you hire the coach first if that coach is such a big name and they pick the GM? What are the early thoughts from people you're speaking with on how this process is going to go for Woody Johnson?
Well, he hasn't made any public comments yet, so no one really knows what he's thinking. But traditionally you would hire a GM first and go out and have him hire the coach. Of course, there's other ways to do it. I've been talking to people yesterday who thought that, if Woody wants to go after Ben Johnson, who's probably going to be the number one coveted candidate out there, I think Johnson probably wants total control, much like, say, a Kyle Shanahan has in San Francisco. So in that case, maybe you hire the coach first and then have him bring along the GM. So there's a couple of different ways you can skin a cat. But my gut tells me now that probably going for the traditional GM and then having him make the coaching hire is probably the way they're going to go.
We've seen in the past Woody Johnson use a search firm. We've seen Woody Johnson hire consultants like Ron Wolf and Charlie Casserly. Any inclination into who's helping Woody with these hires? Because I speak for basically every Jet fan. There's not a single Jet fan on the planet that has any confidence in this ownership group and hiring the right football people.
Why is there any evidence to suggest that they know what they're doing? No, of course not. Yeah, I mean, Casserly hired it, 2015. That was really the last time that Woody Johnson was involved in the process, was 2015. And that was really Charlie Casserly hiring McCagnon and Bowles there. I think Doug Marrone had the inside track to that job, and then that got derailed, and then they ended up deferring to Casserly, who said, "Hey, let's put McCagnon and Bowles together," even though they didn't even know each other. So that didn't work out too well. And
they were both from New Jersey. Never forget. That was why they were going to work well together.
They tried to sell that angle in the press conference, that they maybe had once, like, two ships passing in the night. They may have faced each other in a high school football game or something. But, it worked for a year, and then everything, like it usually does with the Jets, came crumbling down. But in this case, if I were Woody Johnson, I would definitely hire someone to help him through the process. The Jets need a fresh outlook. They need a different set of eyes who could come in and apply some common sense to this hiring process. My good friend Gary Myers recommended Curtis Martin on Twitter, and I know he didn't even talk to Curtis about that. I happen to agree with that. I think that would bring instant credibility to bring in a former Jet, a Hall of Famer. It would be a very popular move among the fan base. But more than that, and you can't let the fan base dictate your moves, although we know Woody Johnson, he does oftentimes. But Curtis is a smart guy. He's in the business world now. He's still got a lot of NFL contacts. I think to bring in him, a Parcells guy, and let him, organize this mess, because right now the Johnsons do not seem capable of sorting out this mess. And so that's what I would do if I were Woody Johnson. I don't want to hire a search firm like who was it years ago? The name is escaping me.
Corn Ferry, was that who it was?
Corn Ferry, yeah. Those guys came in and they hired John Idzik, so that was brilliant. And don't do that. Hire someone with a history, with ties to the organization, who could come in and stick around and not be just a headhunter, but be part of the program, turning the corner. That's what they should do, and that would be the smart way to go.
Getting back to Joe Douglas in particular, Rich, because you covered obviously every step of his tenure. Everyone can point to the Zach Wilson pick as far as like the worst pick and kind of the chain reaction from that pick where it went wrong. But is that ultimately the reason why it failed? Like, when you look back on his tenure, it's very complicated because the record's abysmal. But I sit here and look at this roster and go, there is a lot of talent on this team, despite how bad the team has played from a record perspective.
Yeah, the Zach Wilson pick was the number one reason. I mean, you just can't you draft a quarterback. Think of where the Jets would be now if Zach Wilson was good. They would be talking about his second contract, and they probably have him signed already to a second contract. There would be no Aaron Rodgers. They would have those draft picks, 2 twos on the roster from the Rodgers trade. They'd be in so much better position. So the Wilson pick sets them back years. And look, Joe, he got a chance to correct that mistake. Not many GMs get a chance. He inherited Sam Darnold. He loved Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was his favorite quarterback in the 2018 class. He comes in, he gets the Jet job. He's got Sam Darnold. They try to win with him. It doesn't work. He trades him. I was opposed to that when it happened. I would have kept Darnold and traded that draft pick. They went the other way. We saw what happened. He gets a redo. He gets Zach Wilson. Okay, this is the new guy. That fails. He gets another chance, a redo with Aaron Rodgers. So, Joe had 5.5 years. I don't think he can complain about not getting a fair shot. It was the Zach Wilson pick that ultimately proved to be his undoing.
What do you make of this past offseason, right? The report yesterday in The Athletic that Woody Johnson heavily influenced some of the moves like Tyron Smith and Mike Williams and Bryce Huff not being retained. I don't know. I look at it from afar and go, he's had more than enough time, so I can't sit here and be like, oh, let's blame Woody for this not working. What do you make of some of the stories that are out there about, oh, well, you can't blame Douglas for everything because his hands were tied by ownership?
Well, there was a mandate from ownership to, we got to win now. And I don't think that was a revelation to anyone in the building because, look, you got a 41-year-old quarterback. You're not building for the future. You're going to try to win now. And so I think Woody gave them a very specific budget this year. in the offseason, and that's why they went out and got guys on short-term contracts. I've talked to a number of agents around the team, who deal with the team, and they said that Woody did not want to go with long-term deals. He was in a mode for short-term. That's why they got a Williams, a Tyron Smith, deals they could get out from under in case this happens. And by this, I mean changing of the regime. So now the new GM will come in and he won't have as many burdensome long-term contracts. So I think Woody told these guys, just put it all into this year, and I don't want to damage our future. Put it all into this year. And that's what he did. I mean, that led to the Reddick holdout. The Jets did not want to go long-term with Hassan Reddick. We saw what happened. It was kind of created this cloud over the organization for several months. And so, I mean, Joe Douglas, like I said, he's had ample opportunity to get this team into the playoffs. It didn't work. They didn't even sniff the playoffs in 5 years. I'm not talking like, we got close on the last game of the year. They didn't even get close. And so, Woody's going to get blamed for a lot of stuff. He deserves a lot of blame. There's no question about it. But, picking out little things like, the Bryce, I think that's probably micro analyzing the situation.
You bring up Woody, and obviously, look, the record since he's been the owner here speaks for itself, especially in the playoff drought, which is the longest in North American sports right now. Don't tell any Jet fan that. We already know. Yeah. And, there's now a perception, well, who's going to want these jobs if they got to work for Woody Johnson? Your thoughts just on that narrative that's out there. Is this job unappealing because of Woody and Christopher Johnson?
Yeah, it's not an attractive job. There'll be more attractive GM jobs around the league. I mean, first of all, you don't have a quarterback answer. I mean, look, we all know Aaron Rodgers is not going to be back. I don't think Woody wants him back, and I don't think Rodgers wants to come back. So that seems like Splitsville. So where's your quarterback coming from? Are you going to draft one? It's not a great draft for quarterbacks, unless the Jets somehow get the number one pick with Shedeur Sanders. I don't know, who knows if he'd even want to come here, right? With Dion controlling the strings there. So you don't have a quarterback. You got this perception out there right now that, it's not perception, it's reality, that Woody Johnson is just meddling is troublesome to try to attract a GM candidate. But, they'll get someone. Look, there's only 32 of those jobs out there, so they'll get someone, but it might be someone else's sloppy seconds, or, maybe it's the third guy on your list or the fourth guy. So it's going to be they could throw money at him like they did Joe Douglas. That's how they got Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas initially didn't want to come to the Jets. Adam Gase got in his car and drove from Florham Park to South Jersey and knocked on Joe Douglas's door and basically begged him to take the job. And he did. And they gave him 6 years. And so that's what they're going to have to do for this next GM, is they're going to have to blow him away with money and years and try to convince him that it's a tough job, Jake. It's a tough job.
And you just look at, the direction of this team now going forward. I mean, general manager, coach, the playoff trial, ownership being involved. I mean, Rich, you've covered this team for a very long time. Has it ever been worse than it is right now?
Yeah, I know, recency bias. We always say this is the worst it's ever been. They've been in bad situations before. 1996 season in some ways is reminiscent to this one because that was it's probably before your time, Jake, and maybe most of your viewers, it's before their time, but there's a lot of similarities. They went all in that year. They had the highest payroll in the league. Neil O'Donnell was their version of Aaron Rodgers, and that's almost laughable now to think about that. But Neil O'Donnell was coming off the Super Bowl team. They gave him a ton of money at the time, at $25 million for 5 years. That was big money at the time. And so that was the team, on paper, win now, baby. And it was a complete disaster. And then so they had to start over in the offseason. But they had Bill Parcells come in. I don't see a Bill Parcells out there. Do you? I mean, it ain't going to be Bill Belichick. We know that. He laughs at the Jets right now. So where's that savior coming in? Leon Hess, got down and dirty, and went through back channels to get Parcells away from the Patriots. And Parcells changed the culture for many years. Even after he left, there were the residual effects of the Parcells regime. But so there have been times in the past where it was really, really bad. But this would be probably, I would say, the most disappointing Jet season ever, just because of the expectations and the name of the quarterback.
And when you look at, bringing in Parcells, they go from 1-15, 9-7 year after that in the championship game. I don't know if that guy exists, Rich, but I do feel like this team needs someone that is experienced, because they keep trying the first-time coach, specifically ones with the defensive background. To me, the only guy out there that I think has maybe that resume is Mike Vrabel, just from a culture standpoint. And I know he's a defensive-minded guy, but he was a coach that did hire 2 OCs that ended up being head coaches, so he's shown the ability to identify competent offensive coaches. I just don't know if he would take this job. Do you have any insight into Vrabel or maybe some of the other coaches out there who have experience and their interest in this job?
Yeah, Vrabel would be interesting because I think he's a strong personality and would be a culture changer. That's what they need. I mean, yes, you'd like to have an offensive coach, but more than anything, you need a culture changer. I think Vrabel brings that kind of, swag. He's had success with Tennessee. He's done this before, but he's going to have other opportunities. He's going to call Bill Belichick for advice. Bill, what do you think about the Jets job? What do you think Belichick's going to tell him? He's going to tell him to run for the hills. So I'd be a little surprised if they got Vrabel. It's one of the toughest jobs in sports, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I mean, you talk about the Jets for a living, and it is a brutally tough job, and they just they need a coach who's got a strong personality, who's an ass kicker, who's not afraid to stand up to ownership, who's afraid to do it his own way, regardless of what the media thinks or the public, damn the repercussions. Parcells was the perfect guy at the perfect time, because he's basically said, screw everybody, I'm going to do it my way. And you had to believe him because he had done it before. That guy doesn't exist out there anymore, as far as I can tell.
You brought up Rodgers earlier. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little more about him. I mean, his time with the Jets, 6 games left. Do you see the scenario where they just shut him down or they put him on IR with some sort of injury? I mean, it just feels like it's so bad right now. It's during the bye week. Like, I don't know. I woke up this morning and had this weird feeling we might not see Aaron Rodgers play again for the Jets. I don't know if there's anything to that. It's just a feeling I had this morning.
Interesting question. Jeff Ulbrich will not bench Aaron Rodgers, and they wouldn't do that to him. And I would agree that would be unfair. I mean, why do that to a future Hall of Famer at this point? The season's lost. Just let him play it out. However, I do think what you said could come to fruition. I think at some point, I don't think it'll be the first game out of the bye week, but I could see him developing an injury. I mean, he has played with injuries this year. He said he feels great now after the Colts game. He said he's been feeling great for the last couple of weeks. So it might not be now, but at some point, I could see him going on IR in sort of a mutual decision and him packing it up for the year, and then Tyrod Taylor coming in. I could definitely see that happening down the stretch.
Is there any path where he's here next year, or it's a foregone conclusion he's not back?
I mean, the only path I could see is if they hired Mike McCarthy and they went down that road. That would be the only. McCarthy did interview for the job a few years ago when they hired. That was the Gase, right? The Gase hiring cycle, and I don't think he was particularly impressive in the interview. I'm not sitting here saying that Mike McCarthy is a candidate for the job. I don't think the Jets would go in that direction. But to answer your question, no, I don't really see a realistic path. I think he has seen enough of the Jets. I honestly think he has seen enough. I think this has been an eye-opening experience for him, one that he never imagined when he came here 20 months ago. And by the same token, and I reported this yesterday, I was told that the person who told me this said he'd be shocked if Woody Johnson, signed off on another year of Aaron Rodgers. I think Woody has had enough of Aaron Rodgers, and you hire a new GM, a new coach, they're going to probably want their own quarterback. They don't want a personality like an Aaron Rodgers, who is basically the face of the team. I do believe the Athletic story was true. I mean, I do believe that Woody suggested the idea of benching him after the 4th game. I think there are different people in that room that interpreted it differently. I think some would say maybe he was joking. Others said he was dead serious, so I think it's a little open to interpretation. But Woody definitely did raise the possibility of a benching there, and certainly cooler heads prevailed. It would have been one of the dumbest moves in sports history to bench Aaron Rodgers after 4 games. But so no, Jake, I don't see any scenario where he's back next year.
With that specific, report in The Athletic, what I don't seem to understand is, so Woody suggests, hey, bench Aaron Rodgers. He gets talked out of it. Then a couple of weeks later at 2-4, he's trading for Devontae Adams and paying him up front to facilitate that deal. Like a lot of the things in that story, they don't kind of jive with like conventional logic, but I guess with the Jets, there's no such thing as conventional logic at times. What did you make of some of the findings in that story?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of that stuff had been, like, I heard the Tony Adams thing yesterday, and when I reported last Wednesday that the Jets were benching Adams, it was very fishy. Like, I knew he was getting benched, but I didn't know like the reason why. And then as the days went by, it just smelled off. And then on Monday, when Ulbrich was asked on the Zoom call, why'd you bench Adams? He gave a very cryptic answer, which was weird. And then I found out yesterday afternoon that Woody Johnson demanded that he bench Tony Adams. Now, on the surface, it's like, who cares, right? It's a safety. But the fact that the owner is meddling that much that he would want the safety benched just says a lot. The meeting that which I think when Saleh got fired, I reported on that meeting, because someone told me, when he get fired on October 8th? On October 8th, I found out about that meeting. And, as someone said to me then, Woody was out for blood in that meeting. Now, I wasn't aware that it included the coordinators as well, which was highly unusual because Woody met with Saleh and Douglas every Monday after every game. That particular meeting, he wanted all the coaches in there, which I know turned some people off. They felt it should have been kept private. And I think probably some of the coordinators walked away from that meeting thinking like, holy shit, like what just happened? The owner's fuming. And so, some people, like I said, some people came away as like, what is he, nuts? He wants to bench Aaron. And other people were like, he wasn't serious about that. He was just testing us. So, but yeah, I mean, the stuff about Reddick in there, I mean, I think the story was accurate. The Bryce Huff stuff, I think we're picking through. Like I said, we're microanalyzing with stuff like that, but yeah, I mean, it's been a mess over there. When they fired the coach, Jake, all hell broke loose. You've seen it on the field. The product has been bad on the field. The defense has gone into the dumpster. It just, when you fire the coach, he thought it was going to provide a spark. It was just the opposite.
And that's really where the season started to fall apart. That said, I do find it funny that the same people out there who always clown the Jets, they're a joke, they're a mess, Saleh's the worst, Douglas bad. Now these guys get fired. Saleh all of a sudden, in the eyes of some, is Belichick, and Joe Douglas is like the greatest architect to ever put a football team together. Like you can't have it both ways. I mean, Saleh was 20-36, Joe Douglas was 30-64. They were both bad at their jobs until proven otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer. You are what your record says you are. The old Parcells thing. And I would have liked to have seen Saleh and Douglas get a full year just to see where it went. I mean, granted, the record was not good, but he only got 5 games with Rodgers. And so I would have liked to have seen, I think Woody underestimated the impact of what that firing would do to the locker room. I know players were not only shocked, but especially the defensive guys were like, this is messed up. It's like Ulbrich is going to do 2 jobs now. He's going to be the head coach and the defensive coordinator. So that's stuff we've been hearing for weeks in the locker room. And I think you're starting to see some guys, acknowledge it publicly that change has not worked well at all, to say the least.
Couple super chat questions here for Rich. And of course, we're talking with Rich Cimini, longtime Jets reporter for ESPN and ESPN.com. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thank you to the over 800 of you who are tuned in live right now and everyone watching after the fact. Jets Carpetbagger says, Rich, where do you think Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh could land after this?
Oh, they'll both get jobs pretty quickly, I think. Robert will be a defensive coordinator somewhere. Who knows? Maybe he goes back to San Francisco. The Lions could be looking for a DC if Aaron Glenn gets a job. That would be a hometown situation for Saleh. Joe Douglas is a respected scout as like a talent evaluator, so maybe he goes back to Baltimore. That I know there's been rumors. There was that crazy story, I think, over the weekend that he was looking for houses, real estate in the Baltimore area. That is a little nutty. But I mean, Joe has known for several weeks that he's going to get fired, but I think he'll have opportunities. He's probably, the way things work in the NFL, you usually only get one chance to be a GM. Coaches, you get a chance to be recycled. For whatever reason, GMs only get one shot. So I don't know if Joe will ever be a GM again, but he could be a personnel director somewhere. Probably Baltimore would have him back, but there'll be opportunities for him. I think he's respected in the league, and the same with Saleh as a defensive coach. So I think they'll land on their feet.
KJ8 says, curious, what are the great jobs that are so much better than the Jets job? Honest question. I get it's not great, but what jobs are? 1 of 32, big money if you win. You're an absolute legend. That's the thing I come back to. Like, maybe they're not the best job, but, compared to the last time the Jets were searching for a coach and GM, there is a lot more talent on this team than in years past. The offensive line might have 4 of its 5 starters in place. You have Brees, you have Garrett, still got Quinnen, Will McDonald, Jermaine on defense, Quincy, Sauce, Michael Carter. Like, so the ownership's a major concern, Rich, but I guess that's my big thing. Like, how much will the Jets talent weigh in on it still being an interesting job for folks versus ownership's bad, there's no way people want to take the job?
Yeah, I mean, there's some talent for sure, but you don't have a quarterback. So, I mean, that's a big question mark. Where's that quarterback coming from? You may not even have, knowing the Jets, they'll probably win enough games just to keep themselves out of the the prime quarterback positions. And it's not a great quarterback after Shedeur Sanders. I think you're rolling the dice. So I don't know. The Jets will probably end up with like the 9th or 10th pick, right? They'll just get like 5 wins and get the 9th or 10th pick. But I don't think it's a terribly attractive job. I think everyone sees around the league what's going on here. You got Bill Belichick going on McAfee every week, poking fun at the Jets. I mean, people see that. But, so they'll get a guy coming in. It'll probably be a first-time GM and a first-time coach. And they're going to go through the same thing that Saleh and Douglas went through. And it's just a really, really hard job. I wish them the best of luck because they're going to need it.
Joe says, Rich, what would it take for Woody to sell? Everyone always says, sell the team. This and I get it constantly. I'm sure you do too, Rich, in your mentions. He's not selling the team, right? There's no indication Woody's ever going to sell this team anytime soon.
No. In fact, he's already grooming his son, Brick, to take over the team. He's only 18 years old, so he's got a little ways to go, but he's around. I mean, he's at games. You see him on the field before the games. He's in the locker room. He's more involved than people would think. And so I think Woody will pass the baton to Christopher, assuming he goes to the UK again, and they'll work through it for the next few years. But I do not see the Johnson family, Woody in particular, selling his stake in the team.
All right, Rich, we still have 6 games to go. Jets in the middle of their bye week. I mean, what else is coming out? What else is going to be the big story? Because just when you think, all right, things might calm down a little bit, they've run out of people to fire. There's more things that continue to break with this team.
Has a team, I got to check on it. Has a team ever fired its interim coach? I'm just wondering, because the Jets could probably make history there by being the first to fire their interim coach. I mean, the big names are gone, Saleh and Douglas. And so Woody has essentially he's punted on this season. He's given up on this season. He's given up on this roster. I'm curious to get the player reaction. Now they're on a bye week. We were supposed to have a locker room availability yesterday, but late Monday it got canceled. It seems quite obvious now that they did that knowing that this was going to happen. And so we're not going to get player reaction until Monday. Of course, the big story for the remainder of the year will be Aaron Rodgers. That is the number one storyline. What's his reaction to all this? How does he feel about these reports that he might have been benched? So Rodgers will be the number one storyline. To me, it's a 6 week. The marriage is going to be annulled in 6 weeks. So the Rodgers Jet marriage is over. I wrote this morning that this was an all or nothing season for the Jets, and nothing won. That's how this played out.
Unbelievable. I guess finally, just on Rodgers, I agree with you. I don't think he's back with the Jets next year, but is he playing for a different team? Like if he wants to go somewhere where they have an offense he wants to run, I don't see anyone giving Hackett another chance or running a similar system to what he wants. Would Rodgers just retire at that point? What's your prediction for him beyond the season?
He said he wants to play, but it wasn't a very convincing yes when we asked him that last week. He is a fierce competitor, and he is, he's got what I like to call like competitive arrogance, and all the great ones have it. And I don't think he wants to go out on this note, because I think deep down he truly feels that he's capable of being a really good quarterback still in this league. So I don't think he would make any rash decisions. I think he would there'll be an announcement in February or early March that the Jets and Rodgers are parting ways. They'll designate him as a June 1st cut. And then, or maybe they hold on to him, perhaps to trade him. If someone, I think Rodgers will look at the market, see what's out there. That's a tough one for a coach to take on an Aaron Rodgers. The coach has to be extremely secure in his position to do something like that. Someone I saw floated yesterday, Minnesota as a possibility. They're going to lose Darnold. Maybe J.J. McCarthy's not ready to take over. Do you bring in an Aaron Rodgers for a year? So O'Connell's, seemingly entrenched there. Maybe that's a possibility. I think deep down he'll have to go into another darkness retreat, I suppose, and reconsider his options. Obviously he could do anything he wants in this world. He's a really smart guy, well-spoken, and maybe politics, who knows, but maybe he'll just become a regular on the McAfee show. I don't know, but I think there's a competitive arrogance there that will be very difficult for him to walk away.
I don't know the teams that want to bring him in if he's still going to be like, I have to run this offense. Like on one hand, I understood what the Jets were doing with Hackett. It's like, hey, Brady did the same thing. Peyton did the same thing, but Aaron's not what he was. You could see at the end, and I guess we'll never know, but I really do think the injury last year, 4 plays in, like it changed everything. It changed everything for what this run was supposed to be.
Yeah, essentially it lasted only 4 snaps. So and people say, oh, Aaron's looks great. He's going to come back at the end of the year. And then he doesn't come back, which we all expected anyway. But, he looks fantastic in the offseason. He's full go in OTAs. But, I've talked to former quarterback. I talked to Testaverde, who came back from the injury. I talked to Warren Moon, who was playing in his 40s. It's hard. Warren Moon said, like, the mobility, he goes, it's not your arm that goes. It's your legs. You just don't move like you used to. And a guy like Rodgers, his greatness came on the off-schedule plays, when the play breaks down, getting outside the pocket and making some sort of magic play on the run. And he doesn't do that with any regularity anymore. And he's become a pocket passer, and he is getting no help from the coaching staff because they appear to be utterly clueless. I mean, how do you go 5 series without a first down when you have guys like Breece Hall and Wilson and Devontae Adams? To me, it's mind-boggling. So he is getting no help from the coaching, but he's getting no help from his legs either. They're just not what they used to be. And this is what you see, a quarterback who's ranked, I think I forgot what I wrote, 26th out of 32 in QBR. I mean, it just doesn't look good.
And part of that, though, is he wanted this coaching staff. So, and I'm a big Rodgers guy, but he's no longer good enough to overcome the coaching that's not great. That was basically, hey, Aaron, you do what you want, which is what he wanted, but he's not playing well enough to justify the decision to basically bring in these coaches that will let him do what he wants.
Yeah, at the time, I'm not going to second guess. I thought it was a good trade. I mean, considering where the Jets were, they had to get rid of Zach Wilson. There was no one out there other than Derek Carr, and to me, he's just a guy. And I thought the Rodgers trade made sense for the Jets. I really did. I saw the rationale behind it. Maybe it's Peyton Manning in Denver, maybe it's Brady in Tampa. I can see why Joe Douglas and Woody wanted to do it. And we all knew there was going to be a lot of extra baggage that comes along with Aaron Rodgers, but I still felt it was worth it because anytime you can get a Hall of Famer in your building, I think it's worth a shot. Like, what else were the Jets going to do, right? There was nothing else they could do. They gave it a shot. They brought in his guys. It was a spectacular failure that will be remembered until the end of the NFL, and hopefully that's not in our lifetimes, but it'll never be forgotten because it was such a spectacular failure.
Well, I mean, the Jets are known to be part of failures, unfortunately, yet and we just keep coming back for more. Rich, I really appreciate you hopping on this morning. I know you've been so busy covering this story, so thanks for spending time with us during the bye week, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
All right, Jake. Good to be with you. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Cimini, longtime Jets reporter for ESPN and ESPN.com. Appreciate Rich's time. Does a great job covering this team. Hit the like button if you're one of the over 1,000 people in here live right now, and please subscribe to the channel as well. Comments, questions, super chats. We'll cut the line. Reminder to join the Patreon if you haven't. It's a great way to support this show. More importantly, connect with your fellow Asmaniacs. You'll get access to our private Discord channel. You'll get your name added to the intro. We update the list of names every single month. You also will get 15% off every item in the merch store. Find out about when the show starts every day, when I'm on the radio, my advanced radio schedule, and just a whole lot more. Great way to message me off air and connect with me there as well. Patreon.com/Jake Asman Show. Thank you to everyone who still supports the Patreon, even though the Jets don't support us. I want to shout out Tom Rogers, Sir Dude Pickle, Mickey, and Phil, our four most recent Patreon members. We are quickly approaching 500 Patreon subscribers. Means the world to me. So thank you to everyone who signs up and supports. It really, really, really goes a long way towards allowing me to continue to do this full time for the foreseeable future. All right, let's get to more super chats here. Uno says, Jake, in my wildest dreams, I never thought we were going to be talking about this on November 20th. Hope we get it right this time. Look, as bad as it is now, people, and I get it, it's bad. They're eventually going to have a new GM and a new coach. And if they get it right, it could turn. Look at Washington. Look at Houston. Look at Detroit. There's plenty of examples of this. As bad of an owner as what he is, he's also an owner that was here from 2000 to 2016 where they never had back-to-back losing seasons. They went to the playoffs 6 times. They went to the championship game back-to-back seasons. You just got to get it right. And if you're a New York sports fan, look at the Knicks. James Dolan didn't all of a sudden sell the team and become this great owner with whoever they brought in. He's the same guy. He just hired the right people finally. The only thing that you could do is get these hires right. Now, it's harder to get it right because seemingly the job is not as attractive when people have a perception, and it's not even a perception, it's reality, that ownership can meddle. But it's not like Woody was meddling until this year. Right? Joe Douglas got a lot of time to build it his way. He did. And that's why, you see some of the takeaways in this athletic story. It's like, so we're just going to absolve Joe Douglas of everything? Really? Come on. He got to work with 3 different quarterbacks, right? If he loved Darnold so much, why didn't he stay with him? He tried to help Sam Darnold in 2020. Look at that 2020 draft class that was supposed to be building around Darnold. So he moves on from Sam, and he picked Zach Wilson. And then, okay, he missed on Zach Wilson. He's not the first GM to miss that high on a quarterback. But I always go back to this. Last year, when this team was obviously better than this year's team, we didn't know it at the time, but it was. Defense was playing well last year, really well. Special teams was can't miss with Zerline and Morstead were great. That team won 7 games. And they had a chance to salvage the year, even after losing Aaron Rodgers and bringing a better backup, and they didn't do it. And that's on the general manager. And this year, in an all-in year, Joe Douglas basically punted on getting a new kicker till it was way too late. So even with the dysfunction this year, if they just had a better kicker, they might have another win or two right now. And it wouldn't be a great team, but they'd be alive. The season wouldn't be over on November 20th. It's just so frustrating, but here we are. Bo writes in, I'm so tired of us getting pressed for all the wrong reasons. I'll be ecstatic when we get headlines for winning with the right head coach and GM. It's been a while, Bo, but it has happened with this owner. The Jets have had more, insane headlines in just this season than some teams get over the course of several years. It really is insane. Honestly, the only thing about Joe Douglas being fired yesterday that surprised me is that it didn't happen Tuesday at 10 o'clock when Joe Beningo was on the show again. Like the other 2 big announcements, Salah, the Devontae trade, all of it. Mafia with a super chat. Say hypothetically us fans didn't like the team heading into the season. Do you think Woody would have hid behind Douglas and blamed him for bringing in the players when it was Woody the entire time? I think what happens is when a team fails like this, you see everyone trying to map out their exit strategy. You see everyone try and buddy up to their favorite reporter in the national media that could tell their story and shed a light on them. We've only scratched the surface, people, of the leaks. There's going to be more that comes out. Just wait. There'll be more. We've only just started. I mean, Joe Douglas's agent couldn't wait to talk to The Athletic and give him stuff. That's where I think it's coming from. They say in the story, Joe Douglas didn't comment on the matter. When reached for comment, it was a no comment. Yeah, so they went to his agent. Trust me, I'm in the media. I know how this stuff works. These sources you see, a lot of times it's coming from the subject's agent. And they speak on that person's behalf, so the subject is not potentially liable. Can't get exposed. It happens all the time. But the leaks are only going to get worse. But the bottom line is, season's over. Like, okay, more stuff comes out about how bad the Jets are. Great. It's not going to change until they hire the right people and win. Mike wanted me to ask Rich, will the Jets ever be good? Michael says, boycott Q-tips and Band-Aids. I can't boycott Q-tips. I need them. Buffalo Soldier says, I feel bad for the fans. This is what Woody deserves. They went all in and catered to Rodgers only. And once Rodgers retires, the team is stuck with this roster. Shame on Woody. See, where I would push back on you, Buffalo Soldier, is the team stuck with this roster. It's a better roster than the one that they had the last time they searched for a GM by a lot. Go look at the 2019 Jets roster. This team is light years better. Now, they don't have a quarterback. What else is new? But you know what? With Aaron Rodgers, unfortunately, they didn't have a quarterback because he's not what he was. And I think he's obviously playing through something. You know, Boomer Esiason, I saw speculated today that he's got a very serious hamstring injury when Boomer watches him throw, how he can't push off and get the ball downfield. He believes that's why. Makes sense, right? Rodgers doesn't look like the same guy he did against New England week 3 in the home opener. I was at that game. He looked like Packers Rodgers. He was running around, off schedule, off kilter, making plays. You know, shame on Woody is right because he's a bad owner. But here's the bottom line. There is talent on this team. Quinnen Williams, Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson. Pretty good place to start up front. Quincy Williams, pretty good place to start up the middle. Michael Carter, Sauce Gardner, pretty good place to start in your secondary. On offense, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. Pretty good place to start with your skill position players. Offensive line from left to right. 4/5 of your starters are locked in. Olu, John Simpson, Tippmann, AVT. They don't have a quarterback, which is a huge problem. We all understand that. But, you know, most of these openings, if you look, they don't have quarterbacks either. But you need the right football people to come in. Bang Mateo, Woody being the U.S. ambassador in the U.K. is a feeble take. No one has ever served 2 terms as ambassador in U.K. in the history of the U.K. Let's stop the BS. Well, okay, Bang. So maybe he's not the ambassador to the UK, but the assumption is he's getting some sort of position that will take him away from the day-to-day operation. LX says, Pete Carroll is president of football ops, Agnew, Lions assistant GM, as the GM, and Vrabel as head coach. I mean, if you tell me you get that, I'd sign immediately. I don't know how realistic that is. I do believe if Pete Carroll were interested in coming to this organization and assisting the Johnson family on hiring the right people, it'd be a major win for the Jets. They need people. They need people that know what they're doing. KJH says, seems like he meddled once he realized he should have fired the head coach and GM after last year. I listened to Diana Rossini this morning. She did an interview on DiPietro and Rothenberg. That's essentially what she said. She's like, Woody started the meddle when he lost complete faith in the coach and GM. Well, then Woody's big mistake was not firing at least the head coach at the end of last year. Because if you're only going to give Salah 5 games, you were never in on him to begin with. Isn't that obvious? I have pinned the Gusbuster hotline to the chat if you want to call into the show. There's no one on the line right now. Open lines for you to be a part of it. JR Jet says, hate to see it end this way on the 2025. See, that's the thing. We still got 6 games left, people. Adrian says, Jake, you're overvaluing this Jets team. The Jets have won nothing. The roster is not good. See, that's where I think you're wrong. The roster does have a lot of talent on it. Tell me how I'm wrong about that. The problem is this team has no coaching. I mean, you heard Rich Cimini say that the coaching staff is clueless. He's right. You can't tell me this team should be 3-8 if they had, I'll just throw out an average coach coaching them. There's no way. Imagine they had a good coach coaching them. If Mike Vrabel's coaching this team, what's the Jets' record right now? Mike Vrabel won at least 9 games with Ryan Tannehill primarily as his quarterback in 4 of his 6 years. You don't think with this team he could win at least 9 games? 10 games? So, look, ultimately, until you win, none of it matters, but I don't think we're overvaluing the talent on this team. They got some good players here. Comments, questions, super chats, cut the line. Reminder, if you want merch, Jake Asman Show merch, go to jakeasman.com and you can support the channel that way. Appreciate it. Hit the like button if you're just tuning in. And more importantly, since people care this week about the Jets, but things are going to change very quickly. Right now, I'm at 40,335 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It goes a long way. It takes 2 seconds. It's free. It helps the YouTube algorithm show this show to more Jet fans. All right, let's get to some of your calls right now. The Gusbuster Umbrella Hotline is open. And first up today is a guy we all despise.
Warning! Warning! Allen alert! Shit's about to get ugly, folks. Warning! Allen alert! Hide the children!
Hello, Jacob. I don't think all of you despise me. I think there's some people, maybe 25% of people actually like me, but I appreciate that, Jake. Thank you for setting the tone. A couple of comments. First of all, I was glad to hear Rich basically put the nail in the coffin on Aaron Rodgers coming back next year. I think that will be a formality in the next few weeks. So for everybody who thinks he's coming back at 41 going on 42, I just don't think it happens. I think it's over. I'm glad that they'll turn the page because it's time for them to start anew. What bothered me yesterday, this is what bothered me the most, is listening to Rich Eisen and Dan Orlovsky and Mike Florio defend this GM at 30-64 and blast the organization, which made me laugh out loud because the idea that this GM is getting a pass, because basically what I was hearing is like, oh, the GM should get another year. It's not his fault. I find it hilarious. I just don't understand that viewpoint. He's 30-64. He botched the head coach. He screwed up the quarterback. He picked the wrong left tackle. And if he would have stayed for the entire year, he would have finished another season at 10 or more losses. Why are they still defending him? I just don't understand it. Someone needs to explain that to me. I'm trying to understand the logic of why this GM continues to get praise. I know he did some good things, but as a whole, he's been a failure, honestly.
You want the real answer? People won't like this. Here's the real answer. A lot of people don't like Woody Johnson. A lot of people don't like Woody Johnson. Why? Well, one, Woody does it to himself. He's been a bad owner, so it's easier just to blame him when you see the pattern of how bad the Jets has been. So it's like it can't be Joe Douglas. It has to be Woody. But the reason why a lot of people dislike Woody, his political leanings, his involvement in the Trump administration. So that's part of it too. And people might not like that answer. That's part of it. And by no means am I defending Woody. He's a terrible owner until proven otherwise. But he's not wrong for firing a GM who's 30-64.
That is why I believe that Athletic piece was a hit piece yesterday on Woody Johnson. Again, that's a hit piece against the guy who's about to enter the Trump administration, honestly. And to tell me that Joe Douglas did not have his fingerprints all over that article is ridiculous. Again, and you could see
he did. Of course he did. I'm sure Salah's agent spoke too. I mean, this is what always happens though. When you have a disaster like this, people are trying to get off the ship and plan their exit strategy and what makes them look better. And that's what happens. That doesn't justify Woody for meddling and being this involved with this next regime. He shouldn't. But the only thing I could say about Woody Johnson's this, like, He gave Joe Douglas pretty much 5 years of not being involved at all, and Douglas still screwed it all up. So, like, he had more than enough time.
The only question I have for Woody going forward is please no more calls to Peyton Manning. Please no consulting with Charlie Casserly. You have boatloads of money. Go find a couple of football people to actually advise and find somebody with logic. Find somebody with an actual plan. Don't just pick players. Have plans behind those players. Again, I listened to Connor Rogers yesterday, and what he said about Joe Douglas is Joe Douglas picked players, but there really wasn't a great plan behind it.
Right. That's how you have, and I brought this up, Alan. That's how you have the Jets trading up for Malachi Corley and telling everyone off the record, we had him as our 4th-rated receiver. We love him. And then they have no role for the guy. They have no plan for the guy. Like, that's picking a player and not having a plan with your coaching staff. They have to get everyone aligned. And that's where you hope to God Woody hires the right people, but I have no faith in doing that because he's a bad owner. So hopefully he can bring in Curtis Martin or Pete Carroll, someone that could be in the room and advise him, help him, be like, hey, like, you want to win. Jet fans want to win. Let's help you get the right people that know how to win because you're bad at identifying the right people.
But bottom line is Aaron Rodgers' tenure with the Jets should be over in the few weeks.
It will
Start anew. I agree with you. I would rather have Taylor, Travis, and a 2025 draftee be our quarterback room and start from there. Again, this team needs a new identity, and it needs to start with the GM. Don't talk about players right now. You have to talk about somebody who can actually build this organization correctly. And unfortunately, for the last 6 years, it wasn't built correctly. I appreciate it, Jake. Thanks a lot, man.
Alan, not a terrible call for once. That's not true. Alan's not always bad. But he's right. Look, no one should be defending Woody Johnson. He's a bad owner. But this idea that, Joe Douglas is the fall guy here. Are you nuts? Joe Douglas is the fall guy? He's 30-64. He drafted Zach Wilson. He had Sam Darnold. It was his decision to move on from Darnold. He could have traded out. Like he had plenty of time to try and fix this. He made his bed. He always got to live in it. Batty boy. So JD did his job with the roster or talent truther? Joe Douglas did some of the job well, but not enough of it to justify the record and the decisions that ultimately did him in. A la the decisions on the defensive line, the decision at quarterback. This year, the decision at kicker. These were his moves. We got to stop sitting here pretending like Joe Douglas is blameless in all this, folks. He's not. It's a complicated legacy because he's definitely better than the 2 previous guys, despite the record. But he didn't do enough good to outweigh the catastrophic bad. And that's the problem. When you miss on a quarterback the way he did, you very rarely get a chance to try and fix it. He had his chance. It didn't work. Even if you're the most anti of Woody Johnson people out there, and you have every right to be, the team stinks. Joe Douglas got 6 years. He had 2 coaches, right? Gase brought him in. He basically got to put all the blame on Gase after 2019 and 2020, pick his own head coach, draft his quarterback, replace the quarterback he used the second pick on. He had 5 drafts, 5 free agent periods, and they haven't even had a winning record since Douglas became the GM in 2019. Every team in the league besides one has won at least 8 or more games. The Jets are the only team. Think about it. The Jaguars right now are in line to be the worst team in football for the 3rd time in 5 years. They'll have the number 1 pick. They've already won a playoff game since Joe Douglas has been the GM. Remember the Jets' great 2022 draft class? Jacksonville picked number 1 that year. They won a playoff game that season. And yeah, they're bad again, sure, but even the Giants, who stink, they're a mess. They won a playoff game a couple of years ago, too. The Texans, who picked number 3 that year, 1 spot ahead of the Jets. They won a division last year, won a playoff game. The Jets can't even get to 8 wins. Joe Douglas is going to finish with 3 7-win seasons. And if he stayed this year, they weren't going to get to 7. They're going to finish with 5 wins, 6 wins. So, well, I don't want to act like Joe Douglas didn't make some good picks. He obviously did, but that's not enough to keep him. Like, just because, you know, he might be hotter than your previous ex-girlfriends, that doesn't justify keeping him if he's that toxic. Like, come on, people. I laugh when I see some of the reaction. The same people who clown the Jets for everything are now saying, how could they do this? Remember that Robert Saleh is the worst coach in the league. They fire him. He's Vince Lombardi. The Jets are poorly run. They fire the GM who put the team together the last 6 years. All of a sudden, Joe Douglas became Howie Roseman overnight. Give me a break. These people are such frauds out there in the media. Such frauds. Harvey's up next on the Ghostbuster Hotline. What's up,
Hey,
Harvey?
guys. How's it going today?
Harvey, I've been better, man.
I wanted to show off my new hat.
I love it. Looks good.
I'm not sure if you guys can see that very well.
Let me zoom in on it, Harvey. Stand by. Give the people what they want. There it is.
That's right. There we go.
I appreciate it, Harvey. Thanks for supporting the show, man.
Yeah, that goes along with my 2 black eyes. Yeah, I'm really confused about the Jets right now. It's breaking my heart, man.
I get it. This is as disappointing of a year ever. This is the worst season of being a Jet fan of my lifetime. I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to write a sad song now.
Look, whenever you want to write it, you can perform it on the show.
There we go. All right, so we're gonna get a nice country, teary, sad song coming.
Harvey, I can't wait, baby. Bring it to us. The great Harvey Bouchard on the line. Tyrone says, who's the quarterback next year? Nobody out there. I think it could be Tyrod, Jordan Travis, and a rookie as the quarterback room. I mean, Tyrod's under contract. You don't save any money by cutting him either. Why not just keep him? It's not going to be what people want to hear. So the only way for the Jets to be good next year is if Jordan Travis is legit or this rookie they draft in the first round ends up being good. If they like a quarterback. You know? That's really the only path right now. And then those are going to say, well, why not just keep Aaron? I mean, you're not. When you keep Aaron, everything that comes with Aaron, the attention, the spotlight, I don't think this team needs that right now. I think it's also tough for some of these younger players you want to blossom into leaders to still be the guy if Rodgers is here. Which is fine if Rodgers was still playing at a high level, but he's not right now. He's been okay at best at times. I do think he's playing through an injury. I think it's obvious. I went back and I rewatched some of the film from that Patriot win on Thursday night. He's not the same guy right now. It's not even close. He's not even the same guy against Tennessee week 2. It's a shame, but this is what happens with an older quarterback. You're more susceptible to injuries. So it's a huge risk to run it back next year, and the cap ramifications make it prohibited to do that. More calls right now. Indy Jets is up next. What's up, Indy?
Hey, Jake. Hey, is Rodgers that bad of a leader? Because, as a fan, we all thought we were a quarterback away. We bring Rodgers in. Everybody's going to play at the high level. And I think a lot of these players last year when Zach was playing, they knew he was bad, so they had to step up. And it's almost like these players, kind of like us fans, go, hey, we got Rodgers now. We're before the season. We got Rodgers now. We're going to be great, or at least be a lot better. And do you see like the effort is not there? Like when Zach Wilson was playing, he was playing so bad that everybody knew they had to step up. And it's like now there's no urgency. Hey, we got Rodgers. He's going to do it all for us. And they're learning, that's not the case. And I don't see Rodgers ever getting into anybody's face. You watch Tom Brady, even some of his best receivers. If they screwed up, he was get on their face. Peyton Manning. I mean, I'm not, but you just never see Rodgers really show a whole lot of emotion out on the field. So it's almost like he's bringing them down more than he can help them. And I don't remember what game that was that he got his bell kind of rung a little bit, and we were all a little shocked that he went running back out on the field.
The Vikings game in London.
Yeah, okay. At that point, I kind of thought, maybe it wouldn't be so bad if Tyrod came in and maybe the guys go, hey, we don't have Rodgers now. We all need to step up our game. And it never happened. And I just don't think our players got kind of the same mentality we do. Hey, we got Rodgers. We don't have to play so hard now. And then they're realizing that's not the case. I don't know. That's just what I kind of see.
Yeah, it's totally fair. I think the back-to-back of when he got his ass beat against Denver and he got his ass beat against Minnesota, I think it's really affected him. I think he gets the ball out quicker now. And we showed it on the film review we did yesterday. The times he does have time in the pocket, and he's still not going through his reads. Like, he's like afraid to get hit. It's like he's just trying to get through the game now so we could say he played 17 games this year coming off injury. Like, that's like, he knows the team's not going to win anything with him. So his goals, hey, let me prove I can make it through a full year after coming off this major injury. That's my goal.
Yeah, and I just don't see him being the leader, and obviously we didn't have the coaching staff to hold people accountable, but even Rodgers isn't holding people accountable. There's just no accountability from clear down from the ownership, and the clustered mess that is. But at least we could have had some leadership on the field, and we don't even have that this year. Last year we could say we did. But I just don't see it this year. And I think maybe he is the issue. And I wouldn't have a problem if they benched him and let Tyrod play the rest of the year.
Yeah, but I don't think it's just him. I think when it comes to the leadership, you know what I think it stems back to, Indy? I think they fired the head coach 5 games in. It did irreparable damage to the locker room. You can say whatever you want about Robert Saleh. They played for him. They did. They didn't quit on him. They won 3 of their final 5 games last year. They could have mailed it in. So I don't think Saleh is a great coach. It's been proven he's not. But I just think it's hard when you ask Rodgers to be the ultimate leader and then he's no longer what he was. So it's hard to lead if you're like Rodgers has always been kind of like a lead by example guy. And it's just tough. Plus, let's not forget CJ Mosley's not out there. He's the biggest leader of the defense. So that's one of your leaders gone. The head coach was a huge leader for you, obviously. Joe says he'll be the quarterback next year. All right, Joe. John writes in, I was on board with Aaron as the bridge quarterback, but all this behind-the-scenes drama coming out has changed my mind. It's unfortunate. Yeah, look, it's just the whole thing is unfortunate. That's really what it is. But you look at the cap ramifications of Rodgers being here next year. Does it make sense? If you rip the Band-Aid off clean, you could take a $49 million dead cap in next year or spread it out over 2 years, which I think they probably do. But if you keep Rodgers for next year, that $49 million you got to spread out or take in 1 year becomes $63 million. Or it's $21 million 1 year, $42 million in 2027. Is having Aaron Rodgers for 2025 worth potentially dealing with a $42 million cap charge in 2027? 2 years after Rodgers would have last played for the Jets. It would be if you were all in next year because this year went well and say you came up just short of the Super Bowl or you won the Super Bowl and you're running it back, right? Then it's worth it. Screw the future years. We're in it to win right now. We're Jet fans. We haven't seen this team win anything. We haven't seen this team be in the playoffs in 14 years. Rodgers is playing well. We want to try again next year. We're going for it. Who cares about 2027? Well, next year, guess what? You're not winning the Super Bowl. You might not make the playoffs anyway. And you want Aaron Rodgers to count $42 million against your cap in 2027? Or $63 million all in 1 year in 2026? That doesn't make any sense either. You don't owe him any money. These are dead cap charges. Rodgers is going to be paid. He already was paid. That's why I don't think you could justify it. If he plays unbelievable down the stretch, that's the only way I think it would change anyone's mind. But does anyone really see that happening? What evidence do we have that Aaron Rodgers all of a sudden is going to look like Packers Rodgers again? Come on. Bo with a super chat. I'm praying Jordan Travis is sitting back with a huge smile saying to himself, I'm the answer you've all been waiting for. I mean, I hope. I'd be very surprised. Stack with a great point. Point of the day. Like, subscribe, share. Amen. Hit that share button. Spread the word to Jet fans. We commiserate all together here. Hey, huge shout out to Justin Horvitz, who just signed up for the Patreon during the show. Justin, I salute you, sir. I salute you. Shout out to Justin, who just ordered an item from the merch store, baby. Love that. Got the notification. JakeAsman.com. Get your merch. It's better than Jet merch these days. JT's up next. What's up, JT?
Yo, I'm actually the one that just bought that glass.
That was you?
Yeah. My name's actually Justin, but yeah.
Oh, JT. I didn't even realize. Nice job.
Yeah, thank you. Damn, man. What a whirlwind of events the last 24 hours, huh?
We're only just scratching the surface, people. I'm telling you, there'll be way more leaks that are going to come out. It's sinking ship season. Everyone's trying to cover their backside. Get ready for more.
Yeah, man. I guess I'm ready for it all, man. This is what we're used to, right? The spiraling towards the not towards the end, in the middle of the season. You mentioned earlier that about teams making the playoffs during JD's tenure here. We're one of only 4 teams that have not made the playoffs during his tenure. One of only 4. That's disgusting. You gotta wonder at what point Woody started meddling in with all the the decisions and all that. But man, the track record wasn't good to begin with. Man, I don't know. It was just a mess from the start. And you said it earlier, JD. While he had some really good hits, his misses were just astronomical compared to the hits. I don't know, man. I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I just don't know how to feel about it.
I mean, look, the season is essentially over. So, like, whatever comes out, like, it is what it is. It's going to be hopefully put in the past, or we're moving forward now. It's just we're going to hear how big of a bleep show it really was, though. That's for sure.
Yep, it's more or less closure at this point. We get to find out, like, the actual juicy details of, like, what went on behind the scenes. Because I know we're all thinking, like, what the hell happened? We're finally going to get all those details. And the details that came out were kind of insane. I don't know why they wouldn't want to extend Bryce off. I wonder about the JFM trade. Was that forced by Woody or was that JD?
Wasn't mentioned in the article. I wonder why, because it probably makes Douglas look like a moron. His agent didn't want that in there.
Yep. Fair point. Yeah, man. I don't know. This is a debacle, and it's buckle up, man.
Buckle up, baby. JT, check it in. Just bought an item from the Jake Asman merch store. What a guy. What a guy. A pint glass on the way. Let's get to more of your calls right now. Let's say hello to Marley. Hello, Marley.
What's going on, Jake? The only thing I really wanted to touch bases on was basically how none of his draft picks really was working out. Like, think about Elijah Moore wanting to leave. Elijah Moore, Michael Carter, Ashton Davis sucks. So, like, a lot of his draft picks, there's people that he's been spending all our draft picks on, they haven't really been working out. That's basically the only point I wanted to point out.
Yeah, I mean, look, you look at the draft record, right? Like, for some of the hits, look at some of the misses you see on the right-hand side. Like Zach Wilson, Mekhi Becton. I mean, those were his first 2 picks. You're not going to survive that. Right. Denzel Mims, Elijah Moore. I mean, Jabari Zuniga was a 3rd-round pick. Who? I mean, it's bad. And it's not even just the draft pick. There's more than being a GM than just drafting. It's free agent signing. It's also building a team. And he hired the coach. He gets criticism for Robert Saleh. That was his hand-picked head coach. So that has to fall on the general manager too.
I want an offensive-minded coach. I think our defense, we're gonna have to figure it out. But I want to switch over to the other side. Like, you see how Denver looks right now. Denver looks great, you know. So I think that we need an offensive-minded coach for once. I know Gase was the QB whisperer, but but I think we need an offensive-minded coach, and I think that we need to, like you guys were saying earlier, like, have a plan for the people that we draft, because Michael Carter, think about him. Is he even playing in the league anymore? Elijah Moore. Like, we had guys, we had a team, and Mecole Hardman coming in for 1 year and then getting traded off halfway. So it just seems like a whole bunch of chaos. I feel like you guys said earlier, we need to have a plan for who we put on this team, and I would definitely like to have an offensive-minded coach. I don't want to leave you talk so much, but that's my points I wanted to make.
Yeah, look, ultimately, I think you prefer Marley, an offensive-minded coach. Great call. But this team just needs a culture changer, right? Like, Mike Vrabel's not an offensive-minded coach, but you know what? The guy won. And he also hired 2 guys who eventually became head coaches that were his OCs. So that tells me he can identify what he wants in an offensive coach and be successful. That's what you need. In a perfect world, would I like the guy to be offensive-minded? Yeah, in a perfect world, Kevin Stefanski gets fired by the Browns. I hire him in 2 seconds. 2-time coach of the year, offensive guys, one with a bunch of different quarterbacks. I'll take him in a second. But this team needs a culture changer, man. Vrabel's one of those guys. Stefanski's one of those guys. And don't be surprised if the Jets talk to this guy, too.
It's Jets, Jets. I love Fireman Ed, too.
That's the type of energy you need. Hit the like button if you're just tuning in. There's 900 of you watching live right now. Appreciate everyone's continuous support. We'll be here every day for you, Jet fans. Even during the bye, the Jets always give us something. 2 of you subscribed in the last 10 minutes to the channel, so I thank you for that. Rob, the Jet fans, next. Hello, Rob.
Hey, Jake. If you could just give me an extra minute or so, I want to vent some things. But here's the thing that I have issues with, Jake. You know, I appreciate that you're still optimistic that, you know, this could be something that's quickly fixed.
You think I'm optimistic?
Well, optimistic in the sense that you said, hey, guys, this could be a quick fix if we hire the right GM.
No. I don't want to be on the record saying it's a quick. I don't know if it's a quick fix. What I'm telling you is, as bad as it is right now, well, you could point to specific examples around the league where it was worse, and they were able to turn it around because they got the hires right. I don't know if the Jets are going to get the hires right. I have major questions about this ownership group getting the hires right. I'm just telling you it's possible. It is possible.
Okay, well, that's what I'm talking about. And then you know what? It doesn't give you any encouragement when you hear Cimini saying you'll probably have to settle for a coach or GM like ranked 4th or 5th out of the top crop that's going for jobs, like that this job isn't attractive. So he's saying the opposite of what we're trying to say, hoping that, you know, we get a Vrabel type.
Yeah, okay? But you know what? That doesn't mean that guy won't be like Saleh and Douglas were the best options available when the Jets hired him, and it didn't work. So, you know, sometimes the best guy that the media perceives as the best guy is wrong. You know what I mean?
I hope.
So like you just got to pick the right people. Dan Campbell was mocked after his opening press conference. So look at him. Nick Sirianni was mocked after his opening press conference. He's already been to a Super Bowl, and they're going to make the playoffs for the 3rd year in a row. Like you have to pick the right people, man. That's really what it comes down to.
Listen to what Cimini said. So we're talking about Vrabel, who I love and I want, and I'd be optimistic if we got him and maybe like an Agnew as a GM. That'd be fantastic. But you talk to Cimini, and he's like, oh, no. He'll go to Belichick, and Belichick will say, don't take that job. And then Belichick goes on McAfee and is constantly destroying the Jets. And what the freak is this asshole's problem, Belichick? It's bad enough that he didn't take the job back in the 90s when it was offered to him. And he's got the better of us as far as winning 6 Super Bowls. But he's got to go on McAfee and still to this day, Jake, destroy the Jets. But yet there's still idiotic fans who call into your show, Jake, and they'd be okay with Bill Belichick being our coach or GM or whatever. And I think you have rocks in your effing head if you would ever want this guy to be our coach or GM or total control. Because I'll tell you this, Jake, if we got Belichick, which I know that's not happening, but if, let's say the ridiculous, and we got Belichick and the Jets won the Super Bowl, I tell you, I'd It wouldn't feel 100% good to me. Not with this guy doing it, because this guy has always hated the Jets. Every chance he gets, he destroys the Jets. So anybody who even contemplates him possibly coming, I think you're a butthead for saying that.
Well, he's not going to be here, so who cares?
Thank God. But I don't understand why there are people in the chat saying, "Oh, we need to get Belichick." Are you nuts? What the hell's wrong with you? And
he's not going to be the next Jet head coach, nor would I want him.
No.
I'd rather Rex than Belichick. I mean,
Yeah,
Bill
me too.
Belichick's winning percentage without Brady is lower than Rex's career winning percentage.
No, I'm with you. And I don't want Rex back, but I take Rex over him because you know what? Rex loves the Jets. He at least loves the Jets. I give him that. But now people saying this, what's our next move, Jake? Because we can't depend on, obviously, Woody going to be the ambassador or whatever he's doing and let Chris do it, who picked Gaze the last time. Our next move possibly is not GM or head coach. It's got to be a consultant advisory person, I guess, like a Curtis Martin, who could say, hey, you know what? I know a lot of people and stuff, and this is the direction that we need to go in. I'm going to help you with the interview process. And now you see Curtis Martin or someone as powerful as Curtis Martin sitting there saying, no, the Jets are a good destination to land. You know what? We're going to get this right. And you know what? Mike Vrabel, we want you to come in, and so forth and so forth. Because I think the first thing is we got to get a speaker in here who could speak for the Jets on behalf of Woody and Chris, because God knows they can't pick anyone. And it's got to be a powerful guy. Maybe, like, again, a Pete Carroll, a Curtis Martin, someone who has that type of authoritative position and has respect from the world. Because
I agree. I think that's the first step, Rob. I think you hope Woody hires a consultant or hires a football ops guy that's going to help him with the search. If it's just them flying blind making this decision, you're not going to trust it. Why would you? Mike Vrabel is my number one. You're going to have to money whip him. You're going to have to promise him full control. He's the type of guy you give control of the roster and let him find a GM he wants. Mike Vrabel's high on my list. Brian Flores is high on my list. If the Browns were to fire Stefanski, he's my number one. I'm interviewing John Gruden. I'm interviewing Cliff Kingsbury. I'm trying to find guys that have done it before. Flores, it might be my number two the more I do some digging on this. I love the fact he's from here. He's a hard ass. They need that. He hates the Dolphins, added bonus. Hates the Giants, added bonus. He overachieved in Miami. There's some concerns with how he would handle a young quarterback. I understand that, but I think he's learned. I think he's learned from that experience. He's talked about it. Go look at what he did in Miami. He was told to lose his first year, and he said, F that, I'm going to try and win as many games as possible. They're supposed to win one game. They were way more competitive. We went from, 5 games to 9 wins and then 9 wins again? Like, they were supposed to be awful. Now, the issue with Flores is who's his OC going to be? He had 3 OCs in 3 years, but, he's coming from the Vikings now with Kevin O'Connell. Maybe he brings Josh McCown with him. Josh McCown goes from quarterback coach to offensive coordinator. That would be exciting. I don't know, man. Give me the Brooklyn guy. Poly Prep in Brooklyn. East Coast guy. Won with the Patriots. Was around Mike Tomlin for a year in 2022 as a senior defensive assistant and their linebackers coach. So he coached with Tomlin and Belichick. Players would relate to the guy. He's been the Vikings DC the last 2 years. They've been one of the best defenses in the league, and it's not like they're just loaded with talent. His first year as a head coach in Miami, they were 0-7. They looked like the worst team in the league, and they went 5-4 down the stretch to finish 5-11. Then in 2020, they rallied and ended the year 10-6. They missed the playoffs that year, but they started 0-2, finished 10-6. 2021, they started 1-7 and then went 8-1. They were the first team in NFL history to lose 7 straight games and win 7 straight games. They clinched back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in Miami since 02-03. When they fired him, people were shocked. The reason why he was fired is because it was reported that prior to the firing, the Dolphins tried to pursue Sean Payton to be the head coach and bring in Tom Brady to be the quarterback. They share the same agent, Don Yee. Stephen Ross got a 6-game suspension, and they were docked their first-round pick, so you know it's true. So the only reason why Brian Flores got fired was because they tried to pursue Sean Payton and Tom Brady together, which is not allowed because guys were under contract, and they got caught. I think he deserves another chance, and I think he would take this job too. See, that's the thing. You want someone who wants this job too. Who's not just coming here for the money. Batty boy, I'm going to ignore your super chat because it's so stupid. I don't have time for it. So thank you for paying my bills and enjoy Stupid Town, you bum.
Just shut the fuck up. I did not ask for the dumb opinion that came out of your ass, so shut the fuck up.
Good God. Ladies and gentlemen, more of your phone calls right now. Joining us on the Gusbuster hotline a day after his best friend was fired is...
The only way we can keep Joey D is winning out an impossible feat. Jake, my brother, I'm high as a kite. I love everybody. Man, this team is dog shit.
Man, Douglas is gone. We can't even use that intro anymore. It's outdated.
Yeah.
Are you wearing all black because Joe Douglas was fired?
Yeah. No, I always wear black. That's just it's thinning for these for the big guys. First off, we all have to stop bringing up Sam Darnold. Guys, if we kept Sam Darnold, number one, he would have spiraled out of control in New York because that's what we do. And second, the Vikings aren't winning the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold. So did you guys want him 10 years later after he got some Mike Shanahan in him? And then now he's got some good coaching. He's decent, but they're not doing anything.
No, I think it's more so. It's like, oh, what was he supposed to do? Like, he had to take Zach Wilson. Like, well, he had a chance to stick with Sam if he wanted to build the right team around him. He chose not to. Like, but my point in saying all that is that he had ample time to make the right decisions at quarterback and make the right decisions with roster construction. And unfortunately, while he did a lot of good, it just wasn't good enough over 6 years. You had to make a change.
We would have failed at quarterback pick that year, no matter who we picked, though. So it was kind of like, doesn't matter. Even if we got Trevor Lawrence, he stinks, and in New York, he would have really stunk. So it's just the dysfunction behind the scenes is embarrassing to me, especially because of how heavy we all are into this. It's embarrassing, and then. I have no faith at all. I had no faith in Woody forever. And now when you find out how much he's dipping his hand in the pot, it's like, I can't defend this guy. I cannot tell you in any shape or form that I am confident in the fact that Woody could even come close to getting this right. Especially when you hear from Rich how like Gase had Joe Douglas didn't even want this job. And Gase had to drive to his house and beg him to take this job. So that one stings. And then, honest, how many players on our roster do we have that are top 10 at their position? Just saying, like off the top. And 80% of them are drafted, but just, go through a top 10, Michael Carter, right? Quincy Williams, right? Quinnen Williams, right? Sauce Gardner. If Mosley's out there, maybe us fans don't think he's still top 10, but the league would say he's top 10. That's just on defense. Then you go with Breece Hall. You go Garrett Wilson. You go, I don't know if you want to dabble into our O-line because it can get muddy with who's top 10. But
Think of how many players we have on our roster that are top 10 at their position. Like, our roster was never the issue. These guys,
there's more to it than just the roster, though. It's
Well,
putting
yeah,
a
the
team
coaching.
together. It's
Yeah,
guys
no.
like Bonesy. An example of this is you draft Malachi Corley. You tell everyone he's a 4th-rated receiver on your board. You have no role for him. How does that happen? That's on the GM and
Because of
coach to be on the
Rodgers.
same page.
It happened
It's not
last
because of
year
Rodgers.
Yeah,
No,
it
it's
is.
not.
Yeah, it
no,
is.
it's not.
He's
okay.
not on the field. Because
Denzel Mims, he
Mike
drafted Denzel Mims. There's no
Williams,
role for the guy.
But Denzel Mims had a role in Gase's offense. He was great year one. That's why Jets forever. And
He
Green
wasn't
Bean
great in year
with
one.
I mean, as a rookie, he had good stats. Why is Green Bean or these players who fell in love with Mims? It happened because you saw some production in year one and it looked promising because he was in a different role. And then he comes into the other role, and LaFleur wasn't playing that. LaFleur was very old school, didn't give in to the players. You're doing what I say or you're not playing. And Elijah Moore and Denzel Mims, they didn't like that. And that's why those guys didn't work out. And then McCole Hardman, he came in, and maybe Rodgers would have got anything out of him. But Rodgers, we had to take his baggage of Hackett, who last year, Hackett was terrible, and he had the worst quarterback playing in the league. So how are we going to make a player like Hardman work? And it's like Hardman's a gadget, good offensive, schemed player that is to help a team. He helps the Chiefs being schemed up. So it's disgusting.
Bonesy.
Yeah.
He destroyed this defensive line. He didn't get a kicker this year. He didn't get a backup last year. How do you look? No, stop. How do you look over this stuff? I'm
not looking
very
over
fair
it.
with Douglas.
I'm not looking
I was
over it,
all
though.
in on him getting this year. I liked a lot of the moves he made this offseason, but he made the same mistake twice. He didn't get a kicker this year. I can't take it anymore. He's 30-64. He got to pick his head coach. He got to try and make up for the biggest mistake he made with Zach Wilson. He had ample opportunities to get this right. He didn't do it. We're just gonna keep him because he's better than the previous two guys? Come on.
I'm not arguing that I wanted to keep him, because obviously with what you're finding out day by day with Woody, it was impossible. I mean, he fired Rex Hogan, who was the guy's best friend. Then he fires the coach without telling anybody.
Why was Rex Hogan even here in the first place? He was part of a failed other regime. Like, what? Why are these guys still here? There's a guy that's been with the Jets. I bookmarked this to bring up this week. Guy who's been with the organization for 16 years in the front office. Why? Why are these people who haven't won anything still associated with the team right now? It doesn't make any sense.
He must have some type of, in terms of scouting, he must do something that Joe Douglas liked, or do something that someone likes.
They need a fresh perspective, Bonesy. It didn't work.
They do. That's not why I'm calling anymore. I'm calling to just do what like the normal people like Allen and JJ used to do, and they just trash our team. That's all I'm doing. I'm not saying that we should have kept Joe Douglas, but to try to blame Joe Douglas completely for what's going on without highlighting all the great things he did it burns my ass,
highlighted
man.
it. You can't say I haven't been fair. I talked about it.
Not you. I'm not talking to just you. You just had a caller who brought up Ashton Davis and Michael Carter and a couple day 3 picks in his first year as GM for a different regime. And it's like, bro, what about the guys he did hit on day 3, like Michael Carter too, and Sherwood and Nichols, who's part of our team helping, and he drafted
Okay. So to your point, great job finding JFM off waivers. Great job finding Bryce Huff as UDFA. Why aren't they here? He destroyed the strength of the defense.
Did you hear what Woody said about Woody?
Woody
I'm didn't want to pay Bryce Huff.
No. Here's where Joe Douglas' agent gets involved. It leaks out things to try to make him look better. Do not buy that for a goddamn second that he had anything to do. That Woody Johnson was saying, "Yep, get rid of JFM for nothing." That wasn't even in the article. That was a Joe Douglas.
But
move.
Salah signed off on that. There's no chance.
He did it.
There's no chance that Salah was like, "Oh, don't trade JFM because he's a big part of our scheme."
Okay, explain Javon Kinlaw.
That was Salah. That was Salah's guy.
What do you mean that
Salah
was Salah?
drafted Kinlaw.
So wait, when the moves are good, it's Douglas, and when they're bad, when they're bad,
Kinlaw after Becton, same draft. Salah drafted Kinlaw and said, "Yo, my guy's been hurt for 2 years on San Fran. He showed signs last year. Bring in my guy. I could work with him to fill our void in the D line. And why wouldn't you believe Salah? That's the only thing he's really good at is linebackers and DNs." So
wait a second. So by your logic here, right? We only give blame to Joe Douglas or to any move that's made that's a bad move, it's Salah. But any good move, it's Douglas. Let me ask you one question: who hired Robert Salah?
No. 100%. I blame Joe Douglas for a lot of stuff,
and that's why he's gone.
Really,
well, so here's the thing, right? They're now. At
I
a
know
crossroads.
why he's gone.
Even if they wanted to keep him, right? Even if they wanted to keep him, can you justify with a record of 30-64 allowing the general manager to hire another head coach and to potentially draft another quarterback? How many chances do you get? He's 30-64. People are mocking the Jaguars for their general manager. He at least has made the playoffs. He has the same record as Douglas, but at least has a playoff win. Douglas, the most amount of games they've won in a year, Bones, has been 7.
I get that. I understand that. But how could you even Joe Douglas, right, to us with what we've been used to the past 20 years is a godsend compared to what we have now. You guys,
not last 20 years.
You guys are putting faith in this guy, Woody Johnson.
Mike Tannenbaum went to the playoffs with 2 different head coaches. He won 4 road playoff games in a 2-year span. What are you talking about?
He couldn't hit a first-round draft pick for
but he
how
built
many
the
years?
Team. He identified a good coach. He hired Rex. He hired him. Part of being a GM is not just making some good draft picks, which, by the way, other than Michael Carter and Joe Tippmann, none of the picks outside the top 40 have been true difference makers that he has drafted. They've all been first-round picks, which, great, you still got to hit on them, but that's the expectation that you hit on your first-round picks. The resume is not good enough. Well, he has drafted very well at times. We can't now dismiss what Mike Tannenbaum did. Yeah, it ended poorly, but guess what? Mike had a winning record. He went to the playoffs multiple times with 2 different head coaches. He was able to win with a veteran quarterback. He was able to then go out there and pivot with a rookie quarterback and build a team around him. Like, come on, man. I'm not saying Mike T's is great GM, but this idea they can't find someone that's comparable, that's not true.
Mike T built a great team through free agency, and then he got into the situation where he had to
drafting.
No, who did he draft? He missed on every first round pick. Quentin Coples, Kyle Wilson, who was before him? Sheldon Richardson.
Bonesy.
He hit on Darrelle Revis.
Right. Okay. He was still Nick Mangold, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, David Harris, Brad Smith. I mean, there's a lot of guys that they hit on. The whole core of the team was built.
You go through our picks, though, it's bad. Those our old drafts. Listen, I am still not saying.
But
Joe
part
Douglas
of being a GM is hiring the coach, Bonesy. That's what ultimately did him in.
I get that. I just can't sit here.
So we can't pick another coach. That's what we're saying. It was time to move on.
I just think we should have, not saying that it would have happened, but I think we should have kept Joe Douglas till the end of the year and see what coaches and GMs were willing to come here. Because I think it's Rex or not. Or Rex or
Wait
nothing.
a second. So you want the Jets to start pursuing other general managers with Joe Douglas still here? That's wrong to him. They did the right thing.
It's getting so ugly. And Woody Johnson, the things coming out. I mean,
it was ugly because of Joe Douglas making poor decisions. He's not absolved here.
He's not absolved, but he made a lot of good decisions and not just bad decisions. His big decisions was he missed on Salah.
Bonesy, I get it. It wasn't all bad. That's why it's a very complicated legacy, because the record sucks, but the team is not as bad as it was when he got here, but they haven't won. And here's the thing too, right? While he did some good, ultimately, when you get 5 drafts in 5 free agent periods, I would hope you'd be able to hit on some good moves.
We hit more than other teams hit. We hit a lot. We hit, like, when you go around the league.
Yeah, but all hits aren't equal. All hits aren't equal. If you miss on quarterback and left tackle and miss on head coach, that's a real problem.
Well, I don't still know what we were supposed to do with missing on the head coach. Do we want to hit on the head coach?
Bonesy's takes are upsetting the child. NDJ says, dude's neglecting babies and shit to talk Jets.
Well, these kids drive me nuts all day, and I'm about to really check out because I can't even. You know what it is too? It's the chat. It's the chat. When I hear these guys say some things, I'm just like, and then when everyone is blaming Joe Douglas completely, that gets me upset too. It's just like, guys, I can't fucking wait to see who's our next guy. You guys better hope and pray that he is light years better than Joe Douglas, or I am going to be the new Allen. I am going to be the new JJ, the new Gary. You guys all, don't forget, Gary wanted JD gone before it really started, right? So you guys all agree with Gary. You guys all really agree with something that Gary's really strong about.
Bonesy, I think we all were. Hey, they're gonna get this year. They get a chance to win. If they don't, we'll make changes. That has been my take the entire time. They're 3-8. I can't sit here and defend the guy anymore. It was time for a change. They haven't won anything. They're not close to winning. They're 3-8, Bonesy. 3-8.
I'm
Say
just
it with
complaining.
Me. 3-8. 3-8.
3-8.
3-8. Come on.
But yo, we should be with a regular kicker. That's 3 wins. With a defense not fired with Salah, that's another.
Who didn't get the kicker? Who said Greg Zuerlein, keep kicking, baby, keep doing it, keep shaking?
We guarantee the money. We guarantee the money.
Then why'd they make the move after he cost them 3 games? You couldn't do it after 1, maybe 2? What do you mean they guaranteed him money? They could have put him on IR the same way they ended up doing anyway. Oh my God, that's on him. Who didn't get a backup last year?
Let me ask you one more thing.
Who didn't get a backup last year? JD. That's who didn't get a backup last year. What are we talking about?
Why didn't we get a backup last year, though? Because Zach Wilson played his best career game against the Chiefs in the second half, and everybody was like, all right, let's give him another shot.
Who drafted Zach Wilson?
All I'm going to say is, listen, last thing I'll say is I am more upset about how bad Woody dips in his hands and all these things that are coming out, because there's maybe, let's say just half of it is true. That's terrible. How do you have a meeting that's Rich Cimini confirmed after we're 2-1, and yeah, we play a bad well, Denver's not a bad team. They're in the playoff and beating good teams and playing well ball now. But at the time we thought they're a bad team. How are you going to have a coaching meeting with offensive and defensive coordinators and tell them that they have to bench Rodgers and people they know if you were joking? That is fucking embarrassing. We are an embarrassment. It is over. Rich is right. What guy is coming here and wants to play with Woody? You're going to have to give a new guy the reins again. Oh, let's start refresh. We're at rebuild again. Same old Jets. It's just pitiful. It's pitiful. We are a pitiful franchise. And the fact that anyone has any faith in Woody Johnson doing it correct is it's worse than me having faith in Joe Douglas. I don't know, man. I pray that I'm wrong. I pray to the God, sweet baby Jesus. I pray that I am dead fucking wrong. I pray that I'm wrong, and I pray that our next GM is better than Joe Douglas and shows signs of life, man, because I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. I'm down.
I love you, Bones, but that doesn't mean you keep him. And look, Woody's a problem. I get it, but Woody also was hands off the first 5 years of Joe Douglas's tenure. How do you explain that? Notice this story is just talking about this past offseason. And ultimately, while Woody obviously maybe made the comment about Rodgers being benched after the Bronco game, you heard Cimini say there's different people in that meeting who interpreted it differently. Some thought he was joking. Some thought he was testing them. We'll never know the real story. The bottom line is they didn't bench him. He wasn't benched. He still hasn't been benched. And the team's 3-8. And I love Aaron. But unfortunately, bringing him in was the right move. But the reason why they had to bring him in and take this risk with an older quarterback is because he drafted Zach Wilson. What's funny is he actually found a capable backup of Mike White and then let him go. You let him go. Mike White could win them some games. Gone. See ya. I get it, Bones. It's scary not knowing what they're going to do next, but you could go 30-64 if you got 6 years like Douglas did. He lost 2/3 of his games. And his record would have probably finished 31-68, if my math is correct. 69, if they let him finish the final 6 games. Nick says it would take one 8-win season to top JD. Yeah. Philly Noodles. They better fix this culture, hire more staff, pull a Broncos move, cut AR, get us a Knicks-type quarterback, retool the defense, make it happen. It can be done. It can be done. Do I have faith in them getting it right? How could you? But it can be done. Until then, we'll be here every step of the way, laughing about it, trying to cope with it, all of it. I will say this. Find someone who loves Joe Douglas as much as Mr. Bonesy. All right? You want someone to love you as much as Mr. Bonesy loves Joe Douglas. All right? That's the kind of love you want, right? If you're a guy, you want a woman that loves you the way Bonesy loves Joe Douglas. If you're a girl, you want a man to love you the way Bonesy loves Joe Douglas. Rob checks in. Thank you for the super chat, Rob. No one's gifted a membership yet, so I'm going to gift a membership right now and give someone a free membership here. We need it. His fan base is down. Morale is low. So let's turn someone into an Asmaniac. If you want to get a membership, make sure you're subscribed to the channel immediately because I'm about to do it. And, of course, make sure you like the video if you haven't already. This super chat from Rob says, might as well just give the Jets to Rex and Tannenbaum. They're the only ones that like working under Woody, it seems. Maybe they could retool quickly. I mean, I'd be intrigued by Rex with a different GM. Not saying I'd do it. Imagine Rex is the head coach again. This should be entertaining. Ladies and gentlemen, one membership is being gifted right now. And if you hear your name called, you are an Asmaniac. TP Jet, congratulations. You have done it. You are an Asmaniac, baby. Yeah.
It's Jets, Jets. I love Fireman Ed, too.
There you have it. Jarrow says, aren't you being hypocritical? You loved his moves. I loved a lot of the moves. I didn't love how the Bryce Huff situation was handled. I didn't love the JFM trade. I was on board with Mike Williams. I was on board with Tyron Smith. I was on board with taking Olu Fashanu. Right? But I wasn't on board with Huff and the Reddick situation. I wanted them to just sign Clowney when they had him in the building. Go back and check the tape. It's out there. All my takes are public. I also felt like he was going to be defined by, one, how Rodgers played because he missed on Wilson, so that was the pivot, and it hasn't worked. And, look, he hired Saleh, and while Saleh did some good, he wasn't a complete failure, right? He clearly was a very good defensive mind. Look at how bad the defense has been since he's been gone. That was his move. So we were hoping it was going to work out. I didn't want him fired last year unless they were both gone. That was my thing. Either no half measures. Either they're both gone or they're back for this year, and if they don't win, they're all gone. And that's what's happened. Ladies and gentlemen, our king has come through for the people. 5 channel memberships, courtesy of the King. Lowski.
Show me the money.
Show me the money! Money.
Damn.
Yes, sir. Here we go. 5 names we will read off. Ladies and gentlemen, the following 5 people are Asmaniacs. Jason, Hawk Tua Fangirl, Marcus Jones, Rob the God, Bijan, all receiving channel memberships. But wait, there's more. Alan has gifted a channel membership. Oh, baby. It went to listener AC, who's now an official Asmaniac. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Bo checks in. Start the circus music. Bring in the tiny car. Out comes Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, Woody. And if Bonesy doesn't let go of JD, unfortunately, add him to the mix. Sorry. Wow. Incredible. Cafetero Jet Fan is next. What's up, man?
Oh, hey, how's it going?
You tell me.
Nothing much, but it's crazy what's going on this year with the whole team, huh?
It never ends.
Never. You know, I find it funny that that everybody really try to blame Aaron Rodgers as like the main reason why this team is pretty much failing when it's really been the coaching the whole time. I never really was sold with the whole Robert Saleh. Like I gave him a chance. Like, all right, the first 2 years because he is this is his first time as a head coach, and it's like, all right, he was this all gas, all brake type of thing, and then it kind of faded like after the second year, and it's like you didn't really see the guy who was really like all pumping and everything. You didn't see that in the sideline anymore. So it's like, what happened? Like for me, like after Aaron Rodgers got hurt, like it was like that was like the scapegoat of him still like coming back after the third year of failing to bring this team to at least getting close to the playoffs or at least show something. But it's been nothing but a lose and lose and lose season every year with him. So they should have got rid of him and know that this wasn't the guy. Like with Aaron Rodgers, he needs somebody, that has the experience as a head coach who has been in the playoffs in the past. So for me, it was like that wasn't going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the coaching is the number one reason why this team has failed.
For sure.
I think if they had a better head coach right now, a better staff, you can't tell me with this roster they're 3-8.
Can you? And the people are saying like, oh, let's get rid of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Like, I get it that Aaron Rodgers is not doing his thing, but like, can you tell me where you're going to find another wide receiver like Devontae Adams that could complement with Garrett Wilson if you had a better offensive coordinator? Or the same thing as far as like the O-line. We've been complaining about this offensive coach, guy, the offensive line coach the whole time. And it's like, all right, do we not see that's still an issue? Like you have some guys that are decent offensive linemen, and yet you still couldn't find a way to protect Aaron Rodgers. Like the guy literally came back from an ACL. That's not something that you don't just recover right away. And mentally, that's something that you still struggle as a quarterback. Or as an athlete in general.
But it's another year removed, and he's older, and you're gonna have a new coach, new GM, and the cap ramifications. And we went through it earlier in the show. It just doesn't make sense to keep him, barring him looking like the old Rodgers.
What's
these
better
last
option?
6 games.
What's the better option outside of Aaron Rodgers?
There might not be necessarily a better option.
I'm not saying that he should be because everybody's looking at him like we're looking at him like the Aaron Rodgers of 21, 22, and it's like he's not that guy, but he's at least would be decent enough to at least keep the team together in a sense. Like last year, we were like one of the best defensive teams. What happened to that this year? Why? Well, also because we lost John Franklin Myers. We didn't pick up Bryce Huff. And so it's like that also affected everything because we were like, all right, we got the defense here. All we needed was to get the quarterback to at least, work with the offense because the defense was already there. So it's like everything screwed up because also those pieces were traded away or given away. And it's like that kind of screwed us up. And it's like we're going back again. And then the whole thing, like we want to blow this whole thing up. You want to get rid of Sauce Gardner. People were thinking of like getting rid of like Garrett Wilson. Like, come on, are you kidding me? Like, we're really gonna go back to square one again? It's like that's the whole reason why we're like, for 15 years, we haven't really made it to the playoffs because it's like that mentality. Like we give up so easily in that sense. But I do agree that we need to make changes, and it's definitely. Well, go ahead,
dude.
Sorry.
Like, I don't think you need to blow the whole thing up. You just need to hire the right football people.
But some people are saying that, and I think that's so ridiculous.
They're wrong.
They're
I mean,
stupid.
and I don't think a GM's going to come in and be like, "Yep, that's what we got to do. Blow the whole thing up immediately." I think a GM will look at the team and be like, "Where are our strengths? Oh, we have a really good receiver, a good running back, 4 fits of our O line in place. Not a bad place to start. What's our identity? Hey, let's run the shit out of the football next year. That's how we can win games, stay in games, keep our defense fresh. Oh, the defense still has some talent. If you can run the ball and play good defense, you can be competitive next year with competent quarterback play." The thing with Rodgers, though, his cap hit only goes up the longer you keep him. And it's a new regime. I don't know if he wants to win another, learn a new offense. That's why you move on. He might be the best option compared to like Tyrod Taylor still, or Andy Dalton, or Jameis Winston, or some of these other guys, right? That doesn't mean you keep him. Because when Rodgers is here, it's still all about Aaron Rodgers. He's the Hall of Famer. The spotlight's on him. There's all the storylines with him. Can other guys be the leaders we want them to develop into with a 41-year-old quarterback who's not what he was? It's fine if he's playing great, but he's not. You don't need Aaron Rodgers next year to be competitive because he's not the Aaron Rodgers of old. He's old Aaron Rodgers right now. Now, look, until this game this past week, I was leaning towards just bring Rodgers back as the bridge. But he doesn't look right, man. He's not throwing downfield. He doesn't want to get hit. He's not going through his reads. I think we're going to find out he's seriously hurt, but then it's going to be better next year. Like, guess what happens when you're an older quarterback? You're more susceptible to injuries, unfortunately. PZ says age is just a number. So let's bring in Joe Namath then. Why not? He's a Hall of Famer too. Age is just a number. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Blitz BK, one of the smartest people that watches this show, one of the more talented people that watches this show, has just gifted a channel membership. Bang! Bang! Donnie Rosso is the recipient of said membership. We've added 8 new members so far. Love it. Keep it coming. Hit the like button. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy is fired up. I could tell. Let's say hello to the Hamburger. He's next. Hamburger, how are you?
We're back, baby. We're back. We are back. All the crazies are out. We're good to go, man. Listen, man. 30-64. I mean, what else can I say? Woody Johnson had every right at this year to step in and do what he did. Thought it was over. The minute we started performing the way we are, he's probably fed up just like a lot of us are about looking at this team. You can't go back. I mean, I don't give a shit about what Joe Douglas has done. He's done nothing but brought us this. The worst season in our franchise history with the most build up to the worst collapse in history. So you'd want to defend him all you want. At the beginning of the year, I wanted to ride it out. But after what we all seen, once we got to the Steelers game, done. Like, I was done. I was hoping for wins. I don't want the team to fail out because I do want some of these players back next year. But if we do fail out, some of these guys want to request a trade out of here, like maybe Garrett Wilson or somebody like that. You don't know at this point. You don't know how bad it's going to get. I think Aaron Rodgers is done. I don't think he's coming back at all. I don't think he's going to want to come back. If they're changing general manager, coaching staff, and everybody else, he's going to want out. He's going to want out. I got to go back and listen to Cimini's interview. I was in physical therapy, but listen, it's over, and I'm glad it's over at this point now. We get to start over again. Do I trust Woody Johnson? No, but we have no choice. It is what it is. It's over. Move on from here. Look at what coaches become available, what GMs are available, like Mike Pagani, like John Dorsey, which I would love for him to be here. I think he's a good fit. Ray Agnew, another great fit if he becomes available, if he wants to come here. I don't think that we're the worst franchise to come and see. I think a lot of Joe Douglas's agents throwing some crap out there too. There might be truth to some of it, but it's not all. I don't think it all holds water. But like you always say, Jake, there's 32 teams, and there's only a few spots that become available each year. So hopefully Woody can surround himself with some positive football people, and I mean clear house. Get anybody that he's listening to for the last few years, get rid of. Like, clean house. Get a new perspective for the organization. So, I don't know. I'm going to go ice my ankle, get some lunch. You guys enjoy your day, but keep your head up, man. Look forward to getting some new coaches in here, some new things going on, and look forward to me singing some karaoke on Friday because it's a bye-week win. It's a bye-week win for me. So I agree with getting rid of him now. So it's a bye-week win for me.
Hamburger, I look forward to it, man. Good call. I mean, doing it now gives you a chance to start the process. It makes sense. So a very specific point was raised by Hamburger there, and I alluded to this earlier. I'm going to give you an example of what's wrong with the Jets right now and what needs to change if they're going to go bring in the right people. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. So Joe Douglas has been the Jets GM until yesterday since June of 2019. Here's one of his right-hand men. I don't know anything about this guy. I just know his name is Greg Nemja. All right? This guy's been here for 16 years in the front office. Why? 16 years with the Jets, first as a co-director, player personnel, after spending 5 seasons as the pro personnel director. Previously served as the coordinator in pro scouting, was a pro scout and pro personnel assistant. He initially joined the organization as a scouting intern in 2009. I don't know anything about this guy. He might be nice. Maybe he watches the show. Maybe he's a good guy. How does this make any sense that this guy is in the front office for 16 years, surviving how many different GMs? This is how you stay bad for as long as the Jets stayed bad. Like, you have to have a front office that is fumigated now. Everyone's got to go that's in there. Bring in a Pete Carroll, bring in John Dorsey, bring in whoever that's advising Woody on what they need in the front office. 16, and this guy might be tremendous at what he does. I have no idea. But I find it odd, and it's not just him. There's plenty of guys like that are just in this front office that aren't good. The record's the record. This guy's been with the Jets since 2009 when he was an intern. And he became a pro scout in 2014. Well, that's when this shit really became bad. Like, what am I missing? Co-director of player personnel. This is what I mean. I don't understand how there's guys like this who have just been in the front office forever. The GMs have changed. The coaches have changed. And there's more guys like this in there. Everyone's got to go start over. If we're doing this right, you allow a real GM to have all the resources they need to build the front office staff they want. Bo says, send the circus music. Bring in the tiny car. Mike D's nuts. I'd gift that membership back to Allen. Yuck. Tough. Bo writes in, Mr. Bonesy, if you don't sell shoes for 6 months, you'd probably get fired. Why are you giving Joe Douglas more opportunities than you give yourself? Man, Bonesy really getting it for the chat today. 25 writes in, the Rodgers experiment's over. Time to break up. That's where this is headed. Nick Shiner, the Jets need a Doge department. Yeah, where's Elon? Let Elon run the Jets. Honestly, and I've said this before, whoever is the CEO of Chick-fil-A should be running the Jets. There's no better place that is more efficient and better at what they do than the Chick-fil-A folks. They're the best. You ever go to Chick-fil-A? You see a long line? It ain't that long because they know what they're doing. That place is run properly. I've been eating Chick-fil-A for a decade already. That place is efficient. They know what they're doing. All right, who's the CEO of Chick-fil-A? Bring him in. He can identify what winning looks like, what efficiency looks like. He can help find a good candidate to be the actual football person at GM and coach. CEO of Chick. Could the CEO of Chick-fil-A hire a worse candidate than Adam Gase? Right? No, there's no way. All right, CEO of Chick-fil-A, Andrew Cathy. All right. Actually, no, it looks like Susanna Frost or Andrew T. Cathy. One of them we got to get in here. All right. That's where we're at right now. Now, the problem is Chick-fil-A doesn't work on Sundays. However, football is played on Sundays, so we don't need to worry about that. All right, we need people that know what they're doing. All right, and I'll use this example. The Commanders last year, you know who they hired? They hired Bob Myers as a consultant, the Warriors general manager, who built the dynasty out there. They hired him and Rick Spielman, former GM of the Vikings, as consultants to assist Josh Harris, the Commanders' new owner, with hiring eventually Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. Now, that's what we need here. All right. Or Elon buys the Jets. Either one. Mike D's Nuts says it's easier to get into Yale than to own a Chick-fil-A. Let me tell you something. Chick-fil-A is one of the greats. It really is. One of the great things we have in this country is Chick-fil-A. That and Raising Cane's. Clay says all these teams you're referencing all had recent changes in ownership. Not the Texans, not the Lions. Cal McNair still owns the Houston Texans. He's the same guy that had a character coach with the Patriots, a preacher essentially running his team. By the way, Woody's been more successful as an owner than Cal McNair has. Texans have never been to an AFC title game. And this is not to say Woody Johnson's done a good job. He obviously hasn't. But it's just like this idea that, oh, it will never work. Hey, you got to hire the right people, man. James Dolan is not all of a sudden this great owner. He just finally hired the right people to run his basketball team, and look what happened. Clay writes in, Jets need to move out of MetLife. Well, that's not happening. So I love when people suggest things that have no chance. You know what I need to do? I need to have a threesome with Sydney Sweeney and Margot Robbie. That's what I need to do, okay? All right? We're just throwing out things that have no chance of happening.
Calm your freaky down.
All right? I mean, what are we talking about? All right, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm jetted out. All right? I'm jetted the F out. We'll be back in a couple hours. Jet Parles will join us at 4 p.m. I can't take it anymore. I cannot take it anymore. All right? I'm losing my damn mind. Thank you all for watching. Hit the like button if you haven't. Thanks to Rich Cimini, who joined us for the first 45 minutes or so, I think it was, of the show. Hang in there, Jet fans. Please join the Patreon if you haven't. I really could use the help. You guys are awesome. JETS, 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 Jets. And never forget that we live in the greatest country ever. Hit it, Robert C.
Ready? Everybody mute yourself. Mute yourself.
Light of dawn's early light. What so proud that we hail? We're so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land and of the free and the home of the brave.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I went to the Jet Golf Classic Monday. We all go to the locker room and everybody's showering. There's a line of guys. And who gets behind me on the line but Vinny Testaverde?
Oh, God.
And I said, boy, Vinny, we could have used you last year. You know, Vinny, winning it in New York, is there anything like it? He goes, absolutely not. I go, are you looking for big things this year? He goes, yes. I go, how do you think Aaron's going to react coming off the Achilles? He did say that he's going to have some rust. He goes, look, it's going to be a little difficult in the beginning. They should rely heavily on the run the first couple of games. BJF is gone.
He was on for the first hour. Now, Neil, the AI summary of the chat is right now. I want to read it to you for you to get you to comment. Viewers in the chat, you're getting just so you know, you're getting destroyed in the chat right now.
Oh, yeah, because I got no shirt on. I'm
back-to-back callers with no shirts on.
That's
yes.
it. Yeah, rip me, bro. I don't give a shit.
I'm not. I'm just reading the comments.
No, it's fine. I don't give a shit. But I can't see it, so I'll go back and look at it. Picture your wives under me, bro. Anyway.
Steve F., for your comments. I'm I can't, man. I need a 20. I'm taking 20.
Let's talk about buttered sausage. Talk about buttered sausage, where it comes from, what it does. Why is it doing what it's doing? Get it out of my face. What about buttered sausage?
Only on this show, dude. Only on this show.
It's not my jam. I don't buy jam. I buy honey, and I kiss it on the lips.
Joe Douglas going to get a lot of credit. And yeah, I read Rick's comment. I support in honor of Big Fella.
Oh, come on.
We're live on Broadway right now. Shirtless, baby. Shout out to the chat.
Nate, thank you very much. All right. The show's getting weird.
Who was that lovely lady?
That was Carly.
Oh. Anyway.
Yep. Charles, I think we talked about you calling in and chewing on the air again. You couldn't wait till after your call to eat. You talk to me and then you eat.
Anyway,
this is a great angle for you, Charles. Even better angle. Where are you calling us from?
Burger King in Hope Lawn.
What did you get?
A BK Royal Crispy Sandwich with Swiss cheese on it. No tomato. About to finish up my fries. I'm about to have a slice of birthday cake.
Very nice. Charles, I think you should give all your takes from this angle moving forward.
Is Brock Purdy going to run for his life on the opener? Yeah! He's going to die. Let's go.
Hey, Dre, what do you think about Brock Purdy?
He's gonna die. He's gonna die.